Why are kids harming themselves at school? Quiz. What do Australia, France, Denmark, India, England, Norway, Spain, and the United States all have in common? They've all decided that the biggest threat to children today is Instagram. Teens are depressed. Teens are anxious. And clearly, it's because of the little glowing rectangle in their pocket. So let's ban it. Problem solved. Pat ourselves on the back and go home. Except, what if I told you that the most significant impact on kids' mental health isn't something they do for an hour a day, but something we force them to do for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 13 years straight? Yeah, it's time we talk about school and why it matters now. As we enter 2026, we are in the shadow of 2 student deaths at schools considered high achieving in New York City. I'm aware of 6 schools in the greater New York area where teenagers have taken their own lives on or near their school campus in the last 15 years. Those are just the tragedies I know of personally. As a parent, I feel the fear and anxiety ripple through the community after each loss. And I understand the compulsion to assign blame. It gives us a framework to comprehend the incomprehensible. What was it that brought that child to the breaking point? Studies have been done, surveys collected. And what we know is this: it's not about social media usage. It's not a function of unsupportive home environments. Students are depressed and anxious because of school. Let me discuss the data. Let's start with what I call the COVID experiment. March 2020, COVID arrives. School shut down. Everyone panics. We all remember the pandemic as a terrible disaster for kids, right? Zoom school, social isolation, no prom, TikTok dances as the only human interaction. Dark times. One would expect youth suicide rates to go through the roof during lockdown, right? Right. Oh no, look at the graph. They went down. When schools closed in March 2020, kids stopped taking their own lives. The rate stayed low throughout the summer. Then in the fall, when most schools returned to in-person instruction, they started taking their own lives again. Suicide rates plotted by months before and after school reopening. For teenagers aged 12 to 18, the pattern is unmistakable. For adults aged 19 to 25, no change. The effect is specific to school-aged children. This isn't correlation. When schools closed, suicide rates dropped. When schools reopened, they spiked back up. And it only happened to the group that attends school. 30 years of the same pattern. Okay, maybe that was just a weird pandemic year. Fair. Now look at data from 1990 to 2019. Suicide rates among young people dropped every summer, then spiked again in September. Every single year for 3 decades. See the solid line? Youth ages 12 to 18. Now look at the dashed line. Adults? Flat. No pattern, nothing. The calendar effect exists only for school-age kids. It's almost like there's one specific institution teenagers attend during those months that adults don't. But what could it be? Researchers have known about these calendar effects for decades. England said, hold my tea. Maybe American kids just really hate American schools. So England decided to check. They looked at stress-related emergency room visits among students. During school term, the lines shoot up. During holiday break, they drop. School term again, back up they go. This held for both genders across 4 years of data. When researchers asked 2,000 English secondary students about stress, around 50% had skipped class due to anxiety. In the US, a Pew survey found 88% of teens reported academic pressure as a source of distress, not social media. Only 28% felt distressed by pressure to fit in socially. But sure, Snapchat is definitely the problem. School doesn't just make kids a little stressed. It makes them skip class. It sends them to the emergency room or worse. The data here is not subtle. Now, the 2012 mystery. Let's talk about 2012, the year everything changed. Jonathan Haidt wrote an entire bestseller about this, The Anxious Generation. His argument, smartphones and social media destroyed a generation's mental health. The timing lines up. Teens' mental health collapsed around 2012. Instagram went mainstream around 2012. Case closed. Unless you ask teenagers what was actually bothering them. In 2009, 43% of teens cited school as a significant source of stress. By 2013, that number had nearly doubled. School became the dominant stressor. As of 2024, academic pressure still sits around 70%. Meanwhile, only 28% felt stressed about fitting in socially. You know, the thing that Instagram supposedly ruins. So teens became dramatically more stressed between 2009 and 2013. But not about social things, about school things. Now look at Pew data comparing 2003 to 2006 versus 2014 to 2017. Homework time is up 16 minutes per day. Socializing time is down 16 minutes per day. And those homework numbers don't capture the real burden. The work wasn't just harder, it required technical skills nobody taught. Research shows homework stress is nonlinear. Once the stress response is activated, the trench is now dug. Learning stops, students avoid, and the idea of school becomes unbearable. With the wholesale adoption of edtech and the increase in academic content, students weren't simply directed into a new horizon of learning. They were thrown into a pit while juggling laptops. But social media has to be doing something, right? Maybe. Here's what the evidence actually shows. Large longitudinal studies find no meaningful mental health impact from increased social media use. 8-year surveys show daily social media access had no effect on depressive symptoms. Pew data shows teens report more positive than negative experiences online. If you squint, some studies suggest harm for already at-risk teenage girls. So let's compare. School, 30 years of suicide data, calendar effects, COVID, natural experiment, international confirmation, kids telling us directly. Social media? Correlations? Questionable. One of these has overwhelming evidence. The other? If social media were truly the cause, we'd see clarity and consensus. We don't. We do have clarity about school. When faced with complex problems, we reach for simple answers. Factory jobs disappeared. Immigrants. Kids are miserable. Phones. Vilifying phones and social media is the latest moral high ground. School's harder to fix. You can't ban it, you can't scapegoat it. You actually have to change systems. That's not a politician's specialty. What students are actually saying? The workload is crushing. The expectations are unrealistic. The tech systems are confusing. The support isn't there. We expect college-level rigor. We provide elementary-level support. We expect enterprise-grade tech skills. We provide no training. We expect perfect time management. We tell them to breathe. We keep raising the bar. We keep removing the ladder. We have a choice to make. Keep blaming phones and social media, keep ignoring data, keep adding rigor without support. Or listen, match expectations with support, fix systems instead of looking for scapegoats, be more attuned to our children and what motivates them. It's time to show we have their backs. So maybe we should ask ourselves, as the adults in the room of the greater educational ecosystem, and recognizing that students are the only stakeholders that matter, what can be done? How far can we go in rethinking what it means to support our students? Not with breathing exercises and time management workshops, but with actual structural change, with support that matches our collective expectations, with systems that don't require kids to be tech experts, time management gurus, and academic superstars just to survive middle school. We don't instill hope by scapegoating technology. We build trust by validating what students are telling us, by becoming more attuned to what the student experience actually feels like in the moment and repeatedly instead of dismissing it. The data is clear, 30 years of patterns of self-harm. The COVID natural experiment, international confirmation, kids telling us directly what's wrong. The canary in the coal mine is telling us it's dying. And the only question is, how are we going to save it?